Podcast giant Joe Rogan, host of The Joe Rogan Experience, praised the Daily Wire's What is a Woman? Documentary during an interview with Matt Walsh that aired Monday. Your documentary, I can't tell you how many people have asked me if I've seen it, Rogan said. I think it's one of the most eye-opening things that's ever been done on this whole gender confusion thing that we're going through right now in our culture. Rogan said that he thought that the documentary was going to be Walsh arguing with pro-transgender advocates and that he was instead stunned with the approach that Walsh took. But instead, I think you did it masterfully, Rogan said. What you did is you just let these people explain themselves the way they would talk if you weren't there, the way they would talk to people who agree with what they're saying. And by not pushing back, I think you allow them to let all the crazy out. It's hard to describe to people that aren't aware of what's going on, of how wild this stuff has gotten, Rogan added. Walsh then explained everything that led up to his decision to make the documentary, asking the all-important question of what is a woman. Joe Rogan, your documentary, I can't tell you how many people have asked me if I've seen it. I think it's one of the most eye-opening things that's ever been done on this whole gender confusion thing that we're going through right now in our culture. And it was just like one of those things where I had watch, like so many people were like, you have to see this, you have to see this. And I expected it to be like, I thought it would be like arguments with people or would be very, very confrontational. But instead, I think you did it masterfully. What you did is you just let these people explain themselves the way they would talk if you weren't there, the way they would talk to people who agree with what they're saying. I think you allow them to let all the crazy out. And it's hard to describe to people that aren't aware of what's going on, of how wild this stuff has gotten. First of all, tell me, what was the process of making this? Like, how long did it take? What was the motivation behind it? Matt Walsh. Yeah, thanks for talking about it so much in your podcast. By the way, it's been a huge boost for us. And I had this idea. You'd really have to go back several years, because it occurred to me maybe back in 2017 when this transgender stuff was starting to really gain mainstream traction, which I think happened really. That was like, maybe when Bruce Jenner became Caitlyn Jenner, that was the moment that I think it exploded onto the mainstream. Not what it began, but it exploded into mainstream. Right around that time, it sort of occurred to me that the people promoting this stuff have a problem, which is that we're supposed to accept someone like Bruce as a woman, but then what exactly does that mean? What are we accepting him as? Like he says, I identify as a woman. Well, what are you identifying as? If you're a woman, well, I know what a woman was before, but if now we're including a guy like Bruce, then what is a woman now? And so I started asking this question, which was really basic, just like, what is a woman? What are you trying to say about womanhood now? And I couldn't get anyone to answer. And mostly, it's just on Twitter, and challenging someone on the left. Just give me a definition. What's your definition of the word? And none of them would do. So at a certain point, I thought, well, we have to find a way to go out and put this question in front of them. And that's sort of where the idea for the documentary came from. And we knew going in that we wanted two things, three things. One is we have the mission behind it, the message that we want to get across. But we also want it to be a piece of entertainment, because a lot of conservative documentaries, not all of them, but many of them are just, you feel like they're watching an extended version of a podcast or something. It's not a piece of entertainment, so we wanted it to be that. And then we also knew that the way this is going to work, if it works at all, is if I am just asking questions, because if it's me going on a tour around the country yelling at people, that would be satisfying for me emotionally, but it just wouldn't. It wouldn't prove anything other than what people already know, which is that two sides yell at each other. So we wanted to give sort of gender ideology a chance to hang itself by its own incoherences, which I think is what happened. Rogan, I think you definitely accomplished